Hi everyone, and welcome to the current panel with the title Campsite Back to the Sustainable and Comfortable Future. In the next hour we are going to talk about festival accommodation, the future of tent sharing and other camping solutions, and we will try to get a glimpse on how camping on festivals is going to look like in the future. And as you noticed, this panel is going to be in English fully. In case it's too loud or you're not able to follow, you can also grab headphones over there. Just as a quick info, we're going to leave some room for questions at the end after this discussion. So in case some questions will arise, you can hold on to them and we will get back to them in the end. For me, I'm Chris. I'm going to guide you through the discussion for the next hour. I work at HUM, which is the festival network and platform started here in Germany. And I also have a background in sustainability in the music industry. And I'm very happy to have 3 camping experts here on stage with me today talking about the future of camping. And I'm going to introduce them to you very briefly before we talk about our topic of today. And on the very end there, we have Alain, who is the founder of Utopia Camping Solutions, which was founded to tackle the issue of the ecological footprint of festivals in order to reduce it. Also here with us, we have Lise today, who is the founder of Glamping World, who are experts in the world of glamping, which combines the 2 components of glamour and camping. Mm-hmm. And they also provide pop-up accommodation at festivals, for instance. And also today we have Gert with us, who is the founder of FestiTent, and they were founded in order to tackle hassle-free and comfortable accommodation at festivals. And also a little fun fact about Gert, he already worked at over 500 festival campsites over the past 20 years, so we have a lot of expertise here on the stage with us today. And I'm very much looking forward to our discussion for the day. And in order to dive right into it, I would like to start with a quick introduction round where you tell us how your camping solutions work, which tents you provide basically, and why and how you work together with festivals in the area of camping. And maybe Alain, you want to start with a little insight on your business.
Hi, so I started everything actually from being myself going to many festivals and enjoying the experience. However, I always found myself taking a lot of stuff with me to be comfortable. So at one of the festivals, I thought it has to be a solution that brings me what I need to be comfortable to the festival instead of me carrying it with me everywhere. And thinking, how do I do it in a way that it's still sustainable? And I guess you all guys been at least at one festival and you know how it looks at the end of the festival. So I was sitting in the camping site at the end of the festival looking around me and saying, okay, everything I basically need is here. We just need to pick it up, clean it, refurbish it, and then bring it back to a festival. So it started from my own needs of having comfortable equipment and also combining with my world of view of how keeping things sustainable. So all the equipment we have today, we found in other festivals. We have teams that goes around and collect it, clean it, refurbish, and use it again and again.
Yeah. So my company, Glamping World, is the general distributor for Lotus Bell glamping and event tents, and we sell across Europe. In addition, we've been in operation now for 5 years. We're based in Vienna in Austria. And right from the beginning, we had a lot of interest coming from the festival partners and event industry, looking at our product and asking, do we rent it out? They see it as an attractive product, which is very interesting, and in addition to accommodation use, can be used for festival visitors, can be used for artists, sponsors, and that type of thing. The Lotus Bell, we work primarily with Lotus Bell, And the product itself was designed 10 years ago, and it comes under a slogan, tents for life and not for landfill. So that's sort of a primary thing for the product, is that people really are looking at the reuse of it. Although it is a higher end product, it's really the reuse and the possibility of that with our product.
Great.
My name is Geert. I had the luck of producing my first campsite back in 2003. So we did a lot of campsites with my other company, which is called FestiCamp, a campsite production company. And between 2010 2012, we saw that the demand on festival campings was changing. People were asking for more convenience and more comfort. And that's when we started FestiTent. And basically, FestiTent is offering a hassle-free solution for festival campers. A bit the same like Alan does, only we don't use or we don't reuse material, but we developed our own FestiTents. So that's what we did the last 10 and the last 20 years.
Great. Thank you so much for coming here and joining us on stage. So we already got a glimpse into how your 3 different approaches work. And as I said before, we want to focus on how the festival visitors will camp in the future. And maybe as an addition to your little introduction, you can share some insights on which festivals or which projects you worked like the past years, or with which festivals you also worked to make it more like tangible and practical. I think that would be really interesting.
So one of our biggest projects actually is Roskilde in Denmark. It's a festival that has around 60,000 people doing camping there, and it's well known as being the most trashy one of them all. Everything stays behind from, everything basically. And they talked with us in 2017. We started working together, and slowly we are implementing a system that is putting together all the visitors and allowing them to have a solution where to put the equipment. So in this year, we had in different locations in the campsite, we had containers and signs and guidance to the visitors to actually put their equipment there and not to leave it as trash, whether it's a good equipment, usable equipment, or unusable equipment. And we supervise on all this project. And eventually there was around 10,000 items were collected, which is a lot of items to collect. And then it's our job to find what to do with it. We cannot rent everything, not yet. This is the goal of the festival though. The festival of Roskilde wants to make it that none of the visitors in the next 5 years, none of the visitors will come with their own equipment. And we are the ones who are trying to find a solution for it. When it's unusable equipment, then we create out of it merchandise for festivals or some everyday products that we can use, from the tents, sleeping bags, or mattresses. The idea is really to have everything that came in there somehow to come back there, either as a usable equipment or as a merchandise or products that people can use. It's been astonishing to see how much the visitors actually want to participate. Once you give people the option and the location to put the equipment, they will really play along and be a part of it. And that also gives a feeling that we are all together, doing something together in order to keep the place cleaner for the next time. So this is one of the biggest festivals we do. And now at the next project, the next big project we're going to take, it's a Boom in Portugal, which is a very sustainable festival. It has a lot of sustainable actions that it takes with its visitors. This year we're going to first implement the same system we did with Roskilde, and we hope to see good results there as well.
Do you want to share some insights as well?
Sure. As I said, we started 5 years ago, and the interest basically came from the festival, from the event industry. They would come and say, "Can we rent your tent?" So we started off quite small, renting 10 tents, testing the market, seeing how it was going. Now we have roughly 200 tents in our pool. We work with some smaller festivals, maybe offer 10 tents. Let's just see how the market goes. Let's see if the visitors are wanting to get into that area of accommodation. And then we also work with other partners here in Germany and have worked on some larger festivals. We were this year at Hurricane Southside. We did Pangea Festival with 180 tents with full accommodation. That means beds, bedding, the full thing. So we're looking forward to seeing how next year comes along. As I said, we also work with some other event agencies looking at corporate events and promotional activities.
Yeah, for me, with my production company, I had the chance to work from the first day on the Tomorrowland campsite. We went also with them to America to start up Atlanta. We went to Brazil to start up the campsites over there. So we had a lot of campsite experience. And in terms of FestiTent, of course, our main focus is the Belgium and the Dutch market. And in Germany, I think we work with Nature One, Airbeat One, Electricize, Deichbrand, Mera Luna. So I think our portfolio in Germany is about 10 festivals. And what we feel is that the demand for easy and hassle-free camping in Germany is just beginning. I think there are a lot of growth possibilities. So we think there is an interesting future coming ahead of us the next years in Germany.
Thanks for the insights. Good point. Prior to the discussion, we also talked about what we want to show and give information to the audience. And maybe this is a good point, to get a step back and look at the market of festivals and festival accommodation. And as I said, you've been to over 500 camping sites in the past 20 years. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on the developments you were able to observe and how the market is shifting and what trends we can maybe see in the future. And you also brought a little illustration. I hope you can see it on the screens. It's not perfect, but maybe you can share some insights to that.
Yes, the idea was what we saw the first years when we went to the market with our idea to rent out pre-pitched tents. We had a lot of discussion with festival promoters who were saying, but we already have the Bell tents or the Lotus tents or the My Molos and things like that. And we always figured out there has to be a model, kind of a categorization to put those accommodations in. And we came up with this pyramid, which is quite simple, but it has a lot of research in it, because we see there are basically 3 types of campers. On the bottom, you have the regular campers, people who come and bring their own material, or people who use a single-use tent. For example, the Dutch car tent, it's a single-use tent. We think it's in the lowest segment. Then you have the upper segment, which is glamping. The Lotus tent is glamping. The Bell tent, again, the My Molo is a glamping accommodation. And in between those 2 segments, you have the pre-pitched FestiTent or the Utopia pre-pitched tent. And the difference between the 3 is the value proposition, or the reason why people tend to choose for one of those 3 options. People choose the regular campsite because they want to be in control of their budget. It is the easiest or cheapest way to stay at a festival campsite is bring your own material. And then is the question, why do people pay 1,200 euro to be in a My Molo, or I don't know in what kind of fancy accommodation? And the reason is not the accommodation itself, but the reason is to add an extra experience onto the festival. So you as a festival promoter will share and bring an experience to your audience. And by adding a glamping accommodation, you increase the experience. And that is why people are booking the accommodations. And in between the pre-pitched tent, that's an ease of use service. So people pay money for a FestiTent or an Utopia tent because they are in search for an ease of use. And basically this is meaning that the 3 segments, there is a market for the 3. The 3 can be together at one campsite if the campsite is big enough. It's the same like in a city of Berlin, you have 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star hotel. The 5-star and the 3-star hotel, they are not competitors. It's a different value proposition. And that's really important to understand when you start with your festival looking at accommodations, because otherwise you will then end up with a range of products which is not fitting the needs of your audience. So that's something we came up with in 2015, and we tested it, we interviewed people, and every time we can conclude that the model is working. For example, when we ask to our FestiTent guests, which service do you miss? They will always answer in 9 of the 10, we want to have separate showers and separate toilets. Okay, interesting, we understand. But now a FestiTent will cost you €120. If you have separate showers, it will be €160. Are you willing to pay for it? And a typical ease of use guest will say, no, we are not willing to pay for that. A glamping guest, they will pay for it. They pay for everything. It's the same with Ryanair. When you book a Ryanair flight, you will not pay for everything extra. But when you book a flight of €1,200 at Emirates and they ask you for €50, you get, slippers, you will pay for it. It's a different audience, different guest. So we know the model is working, and of course there are layers into the model, but basically this is how we think, and we are quite sure of that the market is working.
Maybe as a follow-up question, were you able to observe like different trends, or also like with regards to the current situation and like everything what's happening, the situation, inflation, everything? Were you able to observe like a trend with regards to consumer behavior and also their like assets, like financially as well, or maybe like a prediction for the next year?
I'm not 100% sure that I understand the question, but what we see is when this system starts to develop, it starts, of course, from the bottom. So there's a demand for regular camping as soon as you have a more-day festival. And then the third segment is opening, around 2,500, 3,000 visitors. And then again, around 5,000, 6,000 people, visitors, the glamping is opening. And the trend is every year it's more. The first 2-3 years, you can double your amount of accommodations, and it's the same with glamping, and it's the same with the ease of use accommodations. So we have now about, on average, between 2.5% and 4.5% of people are sleeping in an accommodation. In UK, it's already 6-7%. And for example, at the Tomorrowland campsite, over 20% of the people, of the guests, are sleeping in a pre-pitched accommodation. And we are quite sure that that will be the trend for the next years. In my dreams, every night we double the percentage. I think it will take a few years, but you can't go around it. The demand is there, and if you think at your festival there's no demand for accommodations, I think you're wrong, because the demand is there. If you offer it, people will book it.
Lisa and Alain, would you like to share some insights as well, developments you were able to observe, or maybe like how are the requests from festivals and collaborations developing?
What I found over the years, when we started in 2012, I found that many people used to buy their own equipment and come, but slowly, as we all know, the price of new equipment became cheaper and cheaper, so more people bought cheap equipment. And there is more trash actually than before. I was hoping it would go down, but there is more trash as before, which is actually better for us. We have more equipment that we can collect and use afterwards. And like Gert said, there is always a need for accommodation. People want to have a hassle-free camping experience. Together with the pre-pitched tents, we also have a DIY service, which actually gives the visitors the possibility to use the equipment wherever and whenever they want, so we don't set it up for them, and we don't tell them, okay, you stay here, you sleep here. They can take it from us in the distribution point we have in the festival, and they can use it anywhere and bring it back to us, which also allows the festivals, sometimes festivals don't want to give an area and fence it and make it like a glamping area. They want to keep it more free and available for everybody. So this DIY service helps. And I do see over the years that there is more and more, like Gert said, there is more and more people who wants it. We just have to fill up the gaps and see what is it that the festival needs, and then what is the visitor needs, and we are coming there to fulfill all these needs there.
Maybe to dig deeper also into your topic, as we can see, there are two very broad topics, which are comfort and sustainability, and they are also entangled somehow. But I'd also like to focus a little bit on Utopia Camping Solutions, because you really focus on the circular economy aspect, or the model which you want to bring also into the festival market. Maybe you can share some insight into like how your everyday work actually looks like.
Maybe
And you also brought a little illustration which has two sides, which we will show. But maybe you can share some insight on how that works, and also what the challenges are for the circular model in the festival world, maybe.
So the circular model started with the idea that everything that goes into the festival should live and not in a garbage bag. So we can take it and use it. The challenges are, first of all, to sort the garbage, to work together with the festival, that we have enough time to pick up everything and in an order which is not using tractors or other big machineries. And our idea is that as long as there is people who's coming in with equipment that is going to stay there, we are working to pick it up and sort it, and then finding different ways, finding different directions how to reuse it. It's slowly happening. So in the beginning, we started in the first years with usable equipment. This is actually what made things going, because this is our main work, to rent the equipment. We started with very little, and today we have thousands of tents, sleeping bags, and mattresses, chairs, and we actually kind of a full out of how much we can store and use now. And then comes the time, okay, we are settled in, everything is good, we can manage this renting of equipment. Started to look for new solutions. So there is, for every good tent we find, there is at least 2 or 3 tents which are totally trashed, and we cannot fix it. And the tent is basically made out of this material that we all know, this nylon, but it's also made out of fiberglass poles. It has the herring, which is metal. You have many plastic thingies inside or outside of the tent. And all of this has to be, for me at least, to find a solution. What can we do with it? So now we are focusing on creating new products from these materials, hopefully together with some very talented people like Catherine that we met on the way from Tent Nation, that is helping us to find solutions for using a wider spectrum of the materials, not only the nylon. Then we hope to find a solution for everything, and we want to have an understanding with the festival that we are coming to the festival not only to gain money for us and to work, but it's also to do something that is helping. Because eventually the festival, I know today, and you were asking about over the time what's happening, I think that the locations where the festivals are happening are starting to be more aware of the garbage and what's going on and the damage of the landscape after a festival, and they want the festival to bring them solutions. What can they do so the landscape will stay as clean as possible? So this is the story how we do it actually. Everything starts with visitors who come in, picking it up, storing it, sorting, which this is the most challenging part actually, to sort out usable from unusable, and then finding and giving it second life. Basically in a nutshell, this is how it goes.
What I found interesting in the talk we had in advance, you also said that you have like now storages close to the festivals, and I find it interesting that you set up like certain infrastructure already for like the purpose of storage and close to the festival like Roskilde. Maybe you can share some details to that as well.
Since actually what we use comes from the festivals, it's easier for us to set headquarters of storages next to big events, because we take from this event and we store it here, and then we want to keep on doing it locally. So we work with Roskilde. We have a huge storage in Denmark, and we work in Portugal, and there also we now slowly fill in this storage. One storage got burned in this last year, fires in the summer, so we need to redo it again. the fact that we don't count on the equipment to be with us the whole season. We can have a chair and you can sit for our festival and for a country, for a region. It helps us to reduce the amount of trucks that we move around, the amount of, teams that we move around. And this is our goal actually, to have a region where we are working and the equipment that comes from these festivals in this region will be used again and again in this area. In Portugal, we don't need to have a double layer, totally waterproof tents. We can just use the one layer, whatever tents that comes around. Zero chance to have rain in the middle of the boom that will get you wet. So for every location, we have slowly, because we take the tents from there, we have equipment that is somehow more adjustable to this location. And the concept is eventually to be able to work locally, also with local people, with local teams. When we come to a festival, we ask if maybe they want to promote the fact that we are working with the festival, and then we have people that come in as visitors, but they want to do more, they want to give more to the festival, so we would like to work with them. And instead of bringing team from the outside, actually people who are visitors and enjoying the festival, we prefer to work with them. This gives the feeling that we are really all together there and doing our projects together.
Yeah, maybe that's a good follow-up point. Lisa, I wanted to ask you as well. Maybe you can share some insight on how glamping or Lotus Bell also fits with sustainability. Like, what are your thoughts on that as well?
Well, I think one of the things is with glamping, it's higher, the guests' expectations are higher. They're expecting a quality product. They're wanting, the whole glamping movement is really about experiential tourism. People are, and I think this is what Geert also, they have a high expectation. They're wanting a new experience. So these might be people who have been on the festival scene for some years, or it's also the Instagrammable customers, festival visitors. So really with the, they have a high expectation of the comfort. But with that, by default, we're actually delivering a higher quality product to them. So we work with canvas tents. They have a longer life, and so we reuse. We work with partners throughout, as I mentioned, with partners where possible throughout things, so we can really avoid, where possible, unnecessary transport costs. And yeah, that's sort of our main.
Maybe you can all share some insights on the lifespan of your tents, like we also talked about before, because I think it's very interesting to actually understand how many times you use your pre-pitched tents, like on the campsites maybe.
We had, when we started and we had our first prototypes, we had the hope we could use them for 2 or 3 years. And now we have Festi tents which we will use for the 7th season next year. So to be honest, it was not my intention, like Alon, it was not my intention to build a sustainable product. I just wanted to offer hassle-free camping. But by doing that and by using the Festi tents over and over again, actually we developed a very sustainable an ecological business. So yeah, it was not the intention, but we ended up with a sustainable business.
That's a good outcome. How about you guys?
I think the whole concept of renting equipment in general is more sustainable than any other solutions, because we all try to reduce the moves and the transportation. So we are working in large numbers and we serve a lot of people. So the whole concept of renting is sustainable. And also, for our surprise, the tents that we are using now, some of them is already 5 or 6 years with us. Since we don't pre-pitch most of the tents they take as DIY, then the damage is a bit more, it happens more frequently. However, we now tents that are not fully waterproof, for example, we move them to Portugal, because again, there we don't really need waterproof. And if we really put the effort, when we put the effort on each of the products, there is always how to maintain a bit more. Always make them more waterproof using some other materials to keep them waterproof, which is what's important here in the northern of Europe. Changing poles, we find a lot of poles. So teams that sitting down and actually trying to match the pole again to the tent. Until now, they are surviving years. It's surprising because you think it's so cheap in the decathlon, but they really survive with the right care and the right attitude for it. They survive.
How about your tents?
For the Lotus Bell, basically, as I mentioned, tents for life, not for landfill, was one of the key thoughts behind Lotus Bell when it was first designed 10 years ago. I'm working with the product for 5 years now, and we've got tents that we are still have in our rental pool. One of the advantages of the product is that it comes, the tent is in different pieces. If necessary, a part of the tent, the walls can be replaced, the roof can be replaced in need, and also the poles. The basic design is the same as the original day. We have new colours, new windows type of options and that type of thing, but the base design is the same. So a product that was bought 10 years ago, a replacement part is still available now. And I think that's quite an important thing. Of course, there is the possibility, or there has been the possibility over the years to introduce a synthetic product, but that's gone against the initial values of the Lotus Bell company, and they've just said no, they prefer just to stick with the initial concept of a canvas tent, which they believe is, again, like what Alon and Geert are doing, is the opportunity to reduce unnecessary waste at the festivals. And I think we all are working towards that in our own way at the different market levels.
Yes, and as you said, you work together with a lot of big festivals as well. Here in Germany, we also have like a large number of smaller festivals, voluntarily organized and non-profit festivals. What's your take on that? Is like tent sharing and glamping also a solution for smaller sized festivals, or how's it scalable maybe as well? I don't know if you want to start.
Yes, I want to start. We had that struggle for many years. We always get the question of smaller festivals who are willing to grow their campsite, and then they come to us and they say, we want to rent out festi tents, or we want to rent out bell tents or whatever to grow our campsite. But we figured out it's the other way around. So it's kind of maybe bad news for the smaller festivals or the smaller campsites, but you first have to grow your campsite and then you can add accommodations. It's not by adding accommodations that you will grow your campsite. We tried it already a few times and it never worked out. So there are other USPs to grow your campsite, an after party, a pre-party, I don't know what. Push the level of your campsite, give your visitors a very good reason to stay on your campsite, and then you can start looking at accommodations. Because by adding accommodations, you will not attract extra visitors in general. Of course, there are always exceptions, but the basic rule is first grow your campsite and then start looking at accommodations.
Would you guys agree? What's your take?
Yeah, for us, I mean, it's quite interesting because we get a lot of interest from smaller festivals because they see our product as something that matches their values, having a canvas tent. And so, but we are based in Vienna in Austria. So one of the deterrents is unfortunately the transport costs, and what we have been offering is a full service where we come and build up a camp. We're open to working with the smaller, like here in Germany, working with smaller festivals, testing the market, because although we talk about glamping as such, the Lotus Bell is a very flexible product. It doesn't, a tent can be delivered. It doesn't need to have, for us, it doesn't need to have full beds with bedding, wardrobes, mirrors, the whole decoration inside. That's one aspect. It can come down to a more basic level, but still using the quality tent structure. But for us, I think the issue is if somebody comes and says, can we rent 5 or 10 tents, then, okay, how can we make that feasible? Because obviously we have a higher priced product. There is a rental cost on that, but we're sort of willing to see how what options are, what solutions are available. If there were perhaps here in a more regional basis, a partner that we could work with who was wanting to offer 5-10 tents to the smaller festivals, maybe that could become then a feasible option.
I mean, when we work with the festival, I don't see a limit of the size. Of course, as Gert said, if there's 300 people doing camping, then it has to be a very special way how to address them and to maximize the people. But because we come with a basket of services, from the rental tent services to actually consulting about waste management, and we also have an on-site camping shop which provides SOS help for people who forgot their tent. They thought they packed something, but it's not. Then when we have this basket of services, it's easier to come to a smaller festival because we really manage to take a little bit from everything. I do hope that one day maybe we're cooperating together and having locations, as you said, small tents here and there, then we can come to a small festival and say, okay, 10 of these, and 10 of us, and the one who is closest to it will operate it. Then we will open the market for smaller festivals. But I don't think anyone should give up. Always talk to us and see what is your needs and see if we can meet it, and we can do it.
Thanks for the insights. Let's say a festival hasn't really thought about like festival accommodation or isn't offering any types of additional festival accommodations. What would be your tips like to start with the topic? Like maybe listening, like talking to your festival visitors, or do you have any tips on how to start tackling this topic and also in terms of future outcomes?
I think when we started in 2012, there was very little, maybe one or two companies were offering to rent equipment and to come with our story that we rent camping equipment that we found, that actually people thought we are renting trash and they didn't get the value of what we are doing. But slowly it's more and more understandable. First of all, the festival needs to understand if he has the space for it. If it's for pre-pitch, then he needs to have a good space for it, and it doesn't hurt the space for the other campers who are camping freely there, and to find that there is a need. And as Gerrit said, we start small. Honestly, you said we start small, see how it works, and get the feedback from visitors all the time. What do they need?
I think it's indeed always looking at the project. And there is a difference. I said, okay, you need a certain volume, and that's for sure. But of course, when you have a 2, 3, or 4 night campsite, that's already a difference. When you have 500 campers which all travel by airplane, yeah, of course, there will be a bigger demand for preset accommodations. So it's not always a black and white thing. So yeah, you should start looking at it. But there is a very big chance as soon as you have a campsite of 2,000, 2,500 people who are staying for 3 nights, you can almost be sure there will be a demand. And probably that's the point to start. The exceptions are festivals who are kind of in a village, and all the villagers are coming to camp because they want to sleep together. Probably they will bring their own material, but in the other cases, yeah, you should start looking at it. But again, probably you first have to build your campsite, and then we build the accommodations.
And how's the process for you all? Like, how far in advance are you talking to the festivals, or how tight are you like communicating, collaborating throughout the year? Like, say, at which point should a festival approach you or involve you in the planning of the whole campsite accommodation issue?
Yeah, for us, we always, because we have via festitent.com, we have our own platform, so we sell them via our own website, which is, in my opinion, the better way to do it, because the bigger part of the ticket shops are not equipped to rent out material. Selling tickets, it's much easier because it's a one-way transaction, but renting out an accommodation, it's much more difficult. You have more customer service, you have to check it in, you have to check it out, there is a deposit, so it's a little bit more complex. But we need basically around 100, 150 days to have enough to make the time frame big enough to sell actually the FestiTents. The first year it's always difficult, and I'm a little bit excited because we just the last 3 hours we sold over 250 FestiTents for Pink Pop. Pink Pop went on sale this morning, so while we are sitting here, we are selling FestiTents. So as soon as people understand and know the service, and I'm pretty sure it will be the same, you will gain traction, and then it's kind of we can shift very quickly in that. And for our operation, it's like that. But I think it's
for
quite
us.
the same.
Basically, we rent to the festivals, so they come to us and say we would like to offer your tents and our rental. We have a discussion as to, depending on the target market, depending on what the festival believes the budget is of the festival guests. We come up with an offer. It might be the full glamping, it might be something that we're producing for, especially for a VIP area, it might be for an influencer area, or for artists, management, that type of thing, or for the festival visitors themselves. So have a look, what will they be wanting, and it might just be a Lotus Bell tent with a basic interior, beds, bedding, couple of lamps and things like that. They put then the offer into their ticket shop, and as soon as the tickets go on sale, the opportunity to buy also or pay for a comfort camping, a Lotus Bell tent, is also there, and we basically watch, like Gert is watching how those ticket sales, of how those bookings are going. We also watch and see, and that was where we just have discussions with the festivals, and especially if it's a first time thing, we just say, okay, let's just have a Kennenlernen, let's just get to put it out there, let's see what happens, why don't we just offer 10, 20 tents and see what the response is from the festival visitors. We're working with a festival in Austria. They offered 30 Lotus Bell tents with full glamping, and they were sold out within 3 hours. So it's just like, okay, that's great. Let's have a look at how many more can we offer to you. So it's really just to sort of test the market, but obviously the closer we come to the festival time, we need to have confirmations as to how many bookings, sort of a little bit deadlines, because especially this year there was a few challenges. Some of the festivals weren't quite sure what would be able to happen and things with Corona, how many visitors would at the end be allowed in the festivals. So there was a little bit of a delay with some of the planning. But I think if you start now, if you haven't yet, now's the time to start and just have those discussions about what you think you might like to offer. And as I said, we can put it put it on the offer and see what the response is.
Yeah, and what I could add, what we saw the past years, there is always a lot of pressure on the marketing team and the social media team to, of course, communicate about lineup and DJs and things like that, because, of course, as a festival promoter, you want to sell tickets. But what we have seen is when you don't communicate from the beginning about your accommodations, it's also always a very hard thing. There are two approaches, or you put it from the first day into the market and you start communicating, or the second thing is you communicate separate about your accommodations, but you should offer them from the moment your tickets go on sale. But you need to communicate 2-3 times about it during the period before your between your ticket sales starting and between your festival. Otherwise, you will end up with having sold not enough accommodations, and then we see people coming at our campsite and they say, "Oh, what is this?" Yeah, it's the Festi tent or whatever. But people just don't know it if you don't kind of push it. And then you end up in a discussion, you see, we don't think there is some traction, there is no demand, but the demand is there, but people will not actively go and search for it. You really have to push it and tell them, hey, this is your option, and they will say, yeah, that's interesting, and that's how you start with accommodations. But there is a very big pressure on marketing and communication, because if you don't promote it, you will not sell accommodations.
This is one of the biggest challenges, because, as you said, the marketing pressure is on the tickets and lineup and so on. And when a producer and when a production will understand that these services that we offer, it's actually for the visitors of the festival more than anything else, then they would like to. Then maybe they will put more effort and more investment in actually showing the services from the beginning, because it serves everyone, basically. It doesn't serve only one company that goes there or anyone. It serves the whole system. Once you know that the customer will come, rent the tent and will not buy it and leave it as trash behind you. He will travel lighter, will have a better camping experience. This is something that the festival should have in mind, that this is the experience that he wants to have for his visitors. So the sooner the better. Once there is an understanding that this is the service and accommodation that the festival wants and need, the sooner the better. And as you said, show immediately, this is what you have, this is the possibilities, and the results will come afterwards, for sure.
I think very interesting challenges you were already talking about. Maybe having a look at the time, since we want to open up the room for questions as well, maybe we can have like a little roundup of your wishes and hopes for like the camping future. What are your thoughts on key takeaways from this panel with regards to camping behavior, either on the side of comfort or on the side of sustainability, or both entangled?
I can tell that over the years, the understanding of importance of sustainability and to keep the festivals more green and less polluting is becoming more and more into the minds of everyone. Every festival is taking different means and different ways to do so. Renting equipment is one of them, providing accommodation. I would wish that in the future, all the festivals will be able to say, okay, this amount of, really put it down as a fact, like Roskilde, this amount of campers who are coming to my festival will have to rent a tent or will have to rent something, otherwise they will not be able to come in, or they cannot come with €5 pavilions which will stay at the end. I mean, the festival is sometimes afraid to tell the visitors what to do, but this is our job, we set an example, so please don't come with cheap equipment, and if you want to come, maybe we'll give half of the campsite for renting equipment, give the possibility for the visitors to choose, but also help them to choose from the more sustainable solutions.
Yeah, no, it's definitely in the communication. As you say, the people are more conscious about sustainability. Many of them are wanting to do their part, and so if we together offer them the solutions and options so that they can do that, I think it's better for all of us. None of us want to see the waste there at the festivals. I mean, Alon is doing an amazing job to sort of pick up the pieces and put those things back that they can be reused, but we've all seen what does get left behind. And in our own way, if we can all provide those options that people will perhaps not have to leave those €5 pavilions there that just get thrown away, that's beneficial for all of us.
Mm-hmm. I think there's also a big chance that in the future the government will start pushing on reducing the waste on festivals. It's already starting, and for example in Holland we see that the government is really pushing to reduce the trash we leave behind. And on the bigger projects, we also already see it. We see a difference. The more festi tents we put out, and the tonnage of waste, it decreases. So they can actually see it in the bill of the waste company. They had less waste. So I think there's there is also an opportunity there.
Yeah, thank you so much for the insights. Before we open up the room for questions, so if you have any, please raise your hand. I would like to take the moment to also highlight that a wonderful initiative is present here at the event, which is called Music Declares Emergency, and they fight for more sustainability in the music industry. And they're on the very end of this venue, and you can talk to them and explore ideas on how to make your festival more sustainable.
How do you call
and
it?
also,
What's the name of it?
what?
What's the name of it?
Music Declares Emergency on the very, very end. And I think everybody, like we all, are open to get in touch and talk after the talk. But now maybe we open up the room for questions from you guys. Maybe you want to know something specific for your festival. Any questions from regarding the camping future? Yes, there's one. I think the microphone is running.
Thank you. This is especially about the glamping. As we all know, glamping is a lot more expensive. It's really an expensive option, and I think it's something we probably more know of the festivals in like the US, like Coachella, where it's all shiny and glittery, and here in Europe, not especially just in Germany, we really have a festival culture that's like a bit more traditional. It's got to be a bit dirty, it's got to be muddy. How do you see glamping affect this traditional festival culture? And on the other hand, since it's so pricey, how is the reception of the audience, since it may create a kind of two-class community?
A two-class community. I think, I mean, as you say, one aspect, yes, we know Coachella. I have photographs of Lotus Bell tents at Coachella. There is different markets. We see the same at Glastonbury, where glamping is tents, not just tents, penthouse suites with spa pools and things like that. Is that matching the culture of what we're doing here? Because we're talking about sustainability and things. That doesn't mean necessarily transporting spa pools to festival sites. So I think what's interesting is that we together develop the product that suits the market. I mean, you guys have you're creating the festivals, you're creating the environment, attracting through your artists, through your concept, etc. The product to attract the visitors, and it's a matter of working together that what we can provide also matches that. And this is, again, what comes into the pricing. We don't need to be delivering spa pools. Okay, people appreciate hot showers and bathrooms that are nearby, but it's basically working together to find.
Maybe I can add something to that. If I can throw you a question back, you are a festival promoter, I guess, or what do you do?
Sorry, I'm actually studying event management, towards really the point of culture and arts. And personally, I'd like to work at festivals or producing festivals some point later. Mm-hmm. And I would say I personally am more of a person that likes the traditional festival. So I bring my own stuff, I bring my own camping gear. I like to be in a camp with my friends and don't have it all that nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
I have an interesting story about that, and it's a little bit the history of festival camping. You know, the really old and the Wackens of the world, they go and they always are very enthusiastic and they camp in the mud and things like that. And basically that's something which started back in the 60s. Our grandparents went camping on Woodstock and things like that. And it's always stayed. Festival camping, it started at the rock festivals and it was quite kind of rough and everybody was going for, and there were no showers and no toilets and things like that. But then, at the end of the 90s and the beginning of the 2000s, the IDM festivals started with an all other audience. It was a different audience because it were people coming from clubs and discotheques, and then there was the DJ festivals, which until 2002 was non-existing. But they had another audience, and they said, our audience, they have nice clothing, they don't have the boots and things. We need to lay wooden floors, and we need to upgrade our facilities. And then the rock festivals were like, yeah, we don't need it. Our audience, they don't need it. Until they went out and asked it to the Wacken guys in the mud. Hey guys, do you like the mud? And they were like, yeah, why is there wooden floor at the stage at the IDM festivals? And then the promoter said like, oh, we thought you loved to be in the mud. And they were like, no, we actually also like wooden floors at the stage. And that was the transition which the rock festivals made between 2010 and now. It's happening now. And basically that's the answer to your question. It's the same. There really is a demand for a 40-year-old man and a woman or a couple which are going to Wacken already since they were 20, and now they are working and they are able to pay 600-700 euro to be in a nice accommodation. And I'm pretty sure there is a demand. But because also the audience evolves, and that's a very important lesson we learned by seeing it. So basically why we are now upgrading the facilities on the kind of the start of all, the mother of all festivals, the rock festivals, but you have to go a little bit, follow your time. And we're pretty sure there is a demand.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's so much more to add to this topic as well, also in regards to the new generation going to festivals who are very young, very unexperienced maybe during the past 2 years, who also have different needs. So I think it's a very complex topic. Maybe, do we have another question from the audience? Anyone wants to ask something specific? Otherwise, our time is almost up. I'd like to thank you all so much for sharing your perspectives. We heard 3 different approaches on how to make camping at festivals more comfortable and more sustainable, possibly. I think there are so many different ways to approach it, and it's very individual for every festival. But I think you're all open to get in touch and talk about different projects, different aspects of collaboration, and also the topic. And I'd like to thank you all for your time being here, talking about sustainability in the festival context, which we all have to commit to even more in the future. And I wish you a wonderful second day of the event, and thanks again to our speakers.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.